right, we have a special edition of Three and Out, KTXT's sports talk show. I'm Nathan Bowles here with Nico Sanchez, but we do have a special guest. He was on the 2019 Texas Tech men's basketball team that made it all the way to the national championship. He's played pro both here in the States and in Europe, still playing overseas. And he's going to play on the Air Raiders when they tip off on Wednesday, July 19th against the Purple Hearts at 8 p.m. at the United Supermarkets Arena. Matt Mooney, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited. I never thought I'd get the chance to play at Texas Tech again, so this is pretty cool that they're doing this back in Lubbock.
You've been back in Lubbock for a couple days now, so just kind of how does it feel?
Oh, it feels good. I come back here every summer, and this is like a second home to me. I'm looking at getting property down here, and yeah, I love Lubbock. So I come back every summer. I run my camp. My sister actually is going to be a senior at Texas Tech, and I train down here in the summers for a little bit while I'm in town. So I love being in Lubbock.
What is it like each time coming back to Lubbock, a place where you meant so much here, member of the 2019 Final Four squad, somewhere you mean so much to Lubbock and to Texas Tech?
Yeah, I mean, what I love most about Lubbock is the community and the people. You know, a lot of people like to throw shade on Lubbock, but I love Lubbock, and I'll always come back here. The people are great. They've always been good to me since I was here. Even before we were even good, right, that year. It's just I could tell there's something different about Lubbock, and I don't know if that's Southern hospitality or if that's that like everywhere down south, but I really appreciated my time down here, and I'll always come back.
So Matt, when I look at the 23 Air Raiders roster, from players to management, a lot of familiar faces from that 2019 team. But in particular, what do you think it's going to be like getting to lace them up again with Davide and Tariq, the dudes who were in the starting lineup with you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I haven't played with those guys since. Yeah, I mean, I played against Tariq in the G League a little, but yeah, I haven't played with him. I haven't played with Moretti since that year, and we had obviously a great chemistry on the court and off the court. So, I mean, I'm excited. You know, Tariq's a guy you makes a pick and roll really easy. He's a lob threat. You get get to just throw the ball up. He'll catch it anywhere and put it down. And Morrow's a guy that he has any space, he's going to knock down the three. So they're just easy guys to play with, and I'm excited to play with them.
What do you think it's going to be like again playing at the USA in front of this Lubbock crowd?
Yeah, man, I'm hoping the crowd is pretty good. I've heard that tickets are selling, that the crowd's going to be good. Probably not anything like when we were playing there, but who knows? It's going to be a surreal feeling getting back out on that court and realizing, oh wow, I'm really playing a meaningful basketball game out here. So I'm excited.
They kind of look at the tickets there just to see how much it had filled, because TBT said it was maybe on pace to be top 5. And yeah, no, it looks like that lower bowl at least should be pretty close to full. So it'll be exciting. Okay. How good of a shot do you think the Air Raiders have of not just getting through the Lubbock Regional, but even winning the whole tournament?
Oh, we got a good enough roster to win it. It's just about putting together a good scheme and developing chemistry in a short amount of time. And then, guys like myself and other guys just stepping up and doing what we can do out there. But we're good enough to win the thing. So our goal is obviously, to go in there and win it.
What do you know about Purple Hearts, and what do you think you have to do to get through the first round?
Yeah, no disrespect to Purple Hearts, but I know nothing about them. We're going to practice Saturday, and I'm sure Coach will start getting us prepared for them, and we'll watch some tape on some of their guys and try to get a game plan ready for how we think they're going to play and how we're going to attack them.
Yeah, you have a start practicing Saturday. I remember Andrew talked about just a few days of practice. Of course, guys in summer league and stuff. Not do you worry about it, but do you think you'll be able to pretty much put this team together, especially with maybe some of the guys that have played together already?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we all have that Texas Tech connection, and Jason Stout is going to coach us, and I've talked to him a couple of times. Seems really smart, knows what he's doing. So uh, we'll be able to put together something relatively quickly. And as pros, guys are used to it.
Is it hard to not look ahead to a possible matchup with Austin's own, the UT alumni team? I know it's probably not what you should do, but is it kind of hard to not look ahead to that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're expecting to win the first game, and we expect to play Texas the next game. But yeah, you're right. You never look past your opponent. So, we can think about that game, but at the same time, not look past the Purple Hearts in the first round and lock in and do what we got to do.
So we've been talking about the air raiders appropriately, but to go back to 2019 for a few minutes. So personally, when I think back to that run, my favorite game to revisit is the Gonzaga Elite Eight matchup. It was
Mm.
Mark Few, Hachimura, Brandon Clark. Tariq has that crazy blocked three save. Davide hits those threes. And it's just my favorite game to revisit. What is your favorite game to revisit from that whole run? And it could be regular season or the playoffs.
Yeah, the Gonzaga game is one of them for sure. I mean, that was the game that got us to the Final Four, and that Gonzaga team was loaded, man. They were really loaded. I think that was one of the best games that we've played. Um, like I was in training camp with Brandon Clark that year after, and he was just talking about, man, that was our year. That was our year. Like because they were really good that year. They expected to win it. But for me personally, I would say the Michigan State game, just in the Final Four on
Mhm.
that stage, 80,000 people, whatever it was. And, I had a big game. So for me personally, that was, you know, just very memorable for me. I yeah. And I could tell you stories about that, but to have my family and to have people there in attendance at that game and uh, get us to the national championship, that was a lot of fun.
I suspected you might say Michigan State. And so my next question is, so Klay Thompson, five-time All-Star, four-time champ, 50% of the Splash Brothers, has admitted that whenever he is in a prolonged shooting slump, he rewatches his 2016 Game 6 of the Western Finals performance, the 11 threes game, to help
Mm.
remind him of what he's capable of. I'm
Mm.
curious, do you ever revisit the Michigan State game or any of your games in order to get out of a slump?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I do. Oftentimes, yeah, I watch highlights of myself sometimes before games just to remind myself what I'm capable of
Mhm.
and things that I've done and can do. So, um, yeah, whether I'm in a slump or not, or maybe yeah, I'm not playing a whole lot or whatever. Yeah, I'll watch highlights to say, okay, remember what you can do and go do it.
How was the Final Four compared to anywhere you've played? And maybe what is the greatest venue you've had the chance to play in? Don't say the USA.
The greatest venue?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, well, the Final Four doesn't compare to anything because it's just so vastly different. Like the biggest arenas you can play in seat 20,000, and the Final Four is in a football stadium, and like the depth perception is crazy. And I mean, from the top, you can hardly even see the court. It seems like. So that was just an experience that, yeah, I'll never get to experience that ever again because that's the only venue that ever does that. But the best venue, I mean, I got to give credit to Kansas. I mean, Kansas got a crazy, crazy fan base, and they're right on top of you, and they're loud, and they're doing these weird chants, right? The Big 12's got a lot of good venues. Iowa State was really good. Um, I mean, Texas Tech was definitely my favorite venue to play in. Um, but yeah, the NBA is different than college. And, the couple NBA games I played, and the crowds are good, but it's not like the fans aren't nearly as engaged as they are in college. It's more entertainment. So, uh, yeah, I would say, and overseas, there's some pretty crazy crowds. Like I played in a game in Turkey this year where in Bursa. there's a rivalry between the two teams in Turkey, and like, the sports are like religion out there. So uh, it was the loudest gym I've ever been in. You couldn't even hear yourself. Like I couldn't communicate to any of my teammates anything. It was that loud the whole game. Like these people are on their feet. It's like they're angry at you for even, being there and being wearing the jersey. I got some different stories for you guys. But anyways, I'm rambling. Those are the venues.
Speaking
Yeah,
of great venues, no, speaking of great venues, so you, if you didn't know, are part of what is undoubtedly the greatest era in Texas Tech men's basketball history. In 8 seasons, 5 tournament trips, yet only the 2019 team was able to escape the Elite Eight. During that season, when I think back, the Red Raiders crossed paths early in the year with one of the greatest recent collections of talent in college basketball history in the 2019 Duke Blue Devils. 3 players from that team get picked in the lottery. Trey Jones was also on that team. Do you think that game early in the season against that caliber opponent in a sold out MSG helped prepare you guys a little bit for the bright lights of the tournament?
Yeah, playing in those venues definitely helps, right? And even for me, playing in the Final Four helps me realize, like, man, I played on a big stage. I could play anywhere. So there's not really a whole lot of nerves. I mean, yeah, if you can play in those stages, they prepare you for other big stages. So definitely.
different direction here. Favorite Red Raider men's basketball player since you graduated?
Ooh, since I've graduated. Um, Man, that's a good question. I really trying to think the last couple years. I really like watching Bryson Williams play. You know, he was a force, man. He was a good player, is a good player. Oh, it would be nice if he could play TD2 with us. Uh, Mac McClung was exciting to watch for sure. Mm, yeah, I'd say those guys. I mean, there's other guys I like watching, but those are the guys that come to mind.
So to pivot to your pro career a little bit, so you've played now professionally in Spain, Germany, and Turkey. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Europe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is just generally, what has the culture shock been like as an American playing pro basketball in Europe?
Yeah, I actually talked about this a little bit yesterday. I spoke at something out here yesterday and touched on all that. But Spain is very old, and going overseas for me has been difficult being that far away.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Language barrier, different culture. I mean, Europe is more Americanized culture-wise, but it's still much different. And that was the first time I've really been alone, like totally alone and isolated because I went over there by myself, didn't know anybody, didn't speak the language. The time difference, I couldn't talk to anybody for till later in the afternoon, right? So it's tough for me. It's been an adjustment for me. But I was in a beautiful city in Spain, Malaga, Spain, on the south coast of Spain. Across the water is Morocco. So it was beautiful, but with basketball, I mean, with what I do, doesn't matter how beautiful the city is or how good all that is if basketball's not going well. Like if basketball's going good, you know, you could play almost anywhere. Basketball's not going good, and it doesn't matter where you're at. It's going to be a little bit unenjoyable. So, anyways, the culture in Spain it was old, a lot of old buildings, like Europe and everywhere I've been, Europe, Germany, Turkey. Uh, there's not much space, right? Like the roads are small, everything's small. There's no parking lots. It's just kind of more chaotic. And America, I love even in the cities, like there's space and more space than like where I was last year in Istanbul, Turkey. It's crazy. Istanbul is a nice city. More Americanized
Mm-hmm.
than Spain or Germany, in my opinion, where I was. But there's just 20 million people jammed in a tiny little city. Not a tiny little city, it's a big, but 20 million people in a space like that is going to be chaos. So anyways, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I've enjoyed experiencing these new cultures and seeing how people live and being able to experience different parts of the world.
And further than just the culture shock, what has it been like going from basketball NBA rules to basketball FIBA rules in Europe?
So the NBA is way different than Europe. Like Europe is more physical. Actually, I saw Victor Wembanyama say something the other day about the NBA is less physical than Europe. And I mean, he's right, but I would say in Europe they're inconsistent. Like they'll allow you to grab, hold, foul, and then sometimes they won't. It's just very inconsistent, and it tends to be more biased towards your nationally grown players, like your Turkish guys or Spanish guys. I think pretty much every foreigner would probably say that until you have been there for a while, then they'll start giving you the calls, right? It's not just like, hey, a foul is a foul. It's very, very inconsistent. The spacing is much less because you don't have a lot of bigs that can shoot. They play more post up. So you have a lot of bigs that post up. The 3-point line's shorter, and there's no defensive 3 seconds. So defense can just camp out in the lane. So there's not as much space. It's more like college in that way. And you run a lot of sets. It's not as much NBA is more free flowing, run actions. Europe's more, okay, we're gonna run this set, we're gonna run it all the way through. And so I enjoy the style of the NBA much better. I think it's better basketball.
Let me go ahead and do the last question. Who do you think is the best basketball player that you ever had the pleasure of playing with at any point in your career?
First thought is Jarrett. We had a lot of good players on that team, but Jarrett was really special that year. Obviously was number 7 pick for a reason, and I was just with him last night, and I think he'll be okay. He'll figure it out and get another opportunity, and but yeah, I was in training camp with guys, and I was in Memphis, I was in Cleveland, I've been in New York on a 10-day, but I wouldn't consider that really. I know, see, you got the Knicks hat on.
I was at one of those games at the Garden against Detroit that you were at, actually.
Really?
Funny enough.
Yeah, I was sitting on the bench, but no, I wouldn't consider that playing with those guys. So I would say, and I played with a lot of good players, but to come to mind, Jared had a special year, and I saw him do things that really impressed me. And I would say Jared. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we got for this special edition of 3 and Out. Of course, you can listen Apple Podcasts, Spotify if you're listening live on the radio day. It will also be on YouTube soon. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show with us.
No, thank you guys.